In today's episode, I interviewed Dolly DeLong, a photographer and systems and workflow educator. Dolly shares her journey from being a hobbyist photographer to running her own full-time business. She emphasizes the importance of systems and workflows in running a successful business and explains how they can help business owners stay organized and efficient. She provides tips on capturing standard operation procedures or SOPs and training others to handle tasks. She also talks about the benefits of having SOP in place as your business evolves. We had a lot of great tips for you, things that you can apply right away as you're growing your business. I can't wait for you to listen to this episode. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nata Salvatori, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. I have Dolly DeLong with me today. We met at an education conference earlier this year, so I was very excited when she was willing to be a guest in the podcast and share all the great things that she does with you. Welcome, Dolly. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm honored you reached out to me. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So tell them a little bit about your story, what you do, and where you're located.
Yeah, definitely. So I am located in, the best way I can describe it is Middle Tennessee. So around Nashville, Tennessee. I have a husband and I have two boys. So I'm a boy mom. And I have two different sides to my business. So the first side is photography. I am a family photographer, motherhood photographer. And then the second side of my business is I am a systems and workflow educator for other business owners. So what that means is I like teaching business owners about the importance of systems, workflows, and SOPs and how to run the back end of their business, because it really impacts how you run your business and how to find the joy in it and the clarity in it. And I have my own podcast. I have a YouTube channel. And then, of course, I also offer, I do backend integration and for launching. So I do a lot with systems and workflows.
That's awesome. We will make sure to link everything for you guys. But go back a little bit and tell us, how did you end up in the creative world? How did you end up in the photography world? Because I know you have an interesting story there.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll try to condense this as much as possible because it's been over 15 years now. So when I am going to definitely age myself. So I graduated from college in 2007, and back then, not a lot of people had digital cameras, or it was starting to be a thing of when people would get digital cameras. And so I was one of the only people on campus with a really fancy, I'm using air quotes, digital camera. So I would be asked hey, will you take our engagement photos? Will you take our portraits? Will you take my headshots? And I just did it for fun. It was all for fun. I loved it because after college, I graduated in 2007. I moved to Nashville to get my master's. So I have a master's in mental health counseling. I wanted to be a counselor. I was a guidance counselor for a little bit. I ended up working in higher education for about 8 years. And in that time frame, I was still taking photos of people for fun, or they would pay me $50. And I thought, wow, this is so much money. $50. That's a lot of money. Yeah, I know. I was I am a millionaire. Wow. I'd work 5 hours and get paid $50. I'm this is amazing. But I didn't really think too much of it because, of course, owning your own business, to me, it's terrifying because there's no structure. There's no benefits. There's no I like security. I like making consistent money. I like having insurance. I had a lot of good what's it called? I was a golden have you heard of the golden handcuffs? Phenomenal where I had a job and I had a lot of benefits, and it was having golden handcuffs. It was amazing. So I didn't really want to think about pursuing photography as a full-time business. And so fast forward to like from 2010, that's when I had my master's, all the way to 2018. So like over the span of 8 years, I was still growing my hobby, which turned into like a side business, which it was all accidental. I was still like working at a university. And in this time frame, I met my husband, we got married, and he is the more responsible one of the two of us. And when we got married, he was like, okay, let's make a financial plan for ourselves. Let's like establish our roots. And I was like, oh, what? Like,
what grown-ups do?
Like, why can't we just spend our money and have fun? And so he, like, of course, he had been so responsible in college, and he had no financial debt, no student loan debt. Meanwhile, me coming in, I had like all the student loans, like all of these private school loans. And so he was like, okay, let's make a plan of action, and let's like forecast a better future for ourselves, because this will impact our family. We need to like start planting seeds for a legacy. And I'm like, oh, you're so responsible. Okay. So thankfully, I just love him and adore him so much.
And so, did you fall in love with him all over again when he wanted
yes, I was like, oh, you're so wonderful. And so he really is the one that helped me cast a better vision for myself unknowingly. Like, so we, for 19 months, like in our beginning years of being married, we worked so hard at like tackling like so much of my student loan debt, and we paid it off in 19 months. And so I remember in 2018, at the beginning of 2018, we were like, yay, like it was snowing, and we took a picture of ourselves. And so we're like debt free. And in that moment, I promise you, there's like, this is a bridge with like when I started dreaming about my own photography business. I was like, oh, I'm not shackled to like my debt anymore. I can dream. Like, what do I want to do? And so that's when I started opening up more to my husband. I'm like, it would be nice to like actually do my business full time, and I really like it. And I was actually making almost the same amount from photography that I was in higher education. And keep in mind, I was working at a private Christian university, so I wasn't getting paid like bank. Like, I just want to clarify to everyone, like when you work in higher education, you don't get paid that much. So
do you mind sharing with everybody what were you making as a side hustle with photography?
So at one point, it got to be around $24,000 per year, and I was like making $32K with my higher ed. So it was like starting to match. And there were some months where it was exceeding. And I was like, this is a lot of money. I've never done, like, I grew up really poor. I like had lots of student loans. Like, I was not a good manager of money. So I was like, this is a lot of money. I don't know what to do with it. And then when we became debt free, I like started dreaming, like maybe I could do this full time. Like maybe I could. So that was 2018. A few months later, we got pregnant with Blaze. Like, this is my firstborn. He's now going to turn 6. And I was like, oh, like we're starting a family. We have like everything was starting to like roll like for us. And so I was like, again, scared, because I did not want to start my business full time, because again, I had the golden shackles of like, well, I am provided. At one point I had a car because of my like job at the university, and I had a computer, and like my phone was paid for, like insurance, like all this stuff. I was like, maybe I could work like part-time.
Yeah.
And like, like I'm like, I could still like do photography, but then I can still get the benefits, and then everything will be fine. But keep in mind, like we were already okay living off of one income. Like we were used to that. So I went to my boss, and like I spoke with my husband about my plan. I was like, okay, I have a plan. This is what we should do. And he was like, that sounds great. Like, that's responsible. Like, it sounds great. So I went and I presented an idea to my boss at the time. And I was like, okay, I'm pregnant, and I'm thinking I need to do this part-time, because I really like, I want to also like be present with my son, but then also help out with the department, because I was the only one in my department that did what I did. So I was like, surely they wouldn't get rid of me. Like, they need me. And I was like, it's a great plan. And he even told me, oh, this is a great plan. Like, yeah, like we'll work something out for you. Within like a few hours later, there was a department-wide email that was sent out, and it would said, well, Dolly will be leaving us but in the fall to pursue something else, and we just want to wish her luck for everything. And I was like, I
Wow.
opened the email and I forwarded it to my husband, and I was like, am I going crazy? Like, did I because then instantly I thought I was going crazy. Like maybe I
What did I say?
miscommunicated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I start questioning myself. And then my husband, it was good that I spoke with my husband about it before, because he's like, no, this is not what we talked about. Like, this is like, he's like making something up, Dolly. And so it was kind of like liberating for me to know, like, I'm not going crazy, because my husband is also seeing this. So, all right, well, I guess I'm not going back to work in the fall. And so in the fall of 2018, I gave birth to 2 babies. I gave birth to my full-time business, and my real baby, the more important baby, was born. And so I've just been like pursuing my business full time since 2018, and but more seriously my business since 2021. Like I started taking it more seriously in 2021. But yeah, that's just a little bit more.
That's a great accidental CEO story. Somebody
Yeah.
kind of pushed you out when, without your intent to leave. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes, I hear that a lot as I interview people. It wasn't the plan. It was maybe a side thing that you started, and you had another path in mind, or maybe you were thinking kind of part-time. I can keep this great benefits, because we do know that's something that people struggle a lot in the creative world, like not having good benefits, not having that good health insurance. So it is tempting to kind of hold on to that job that offers all the good stuff. But then a lot of times something just happened. And I feel like a lot of times it's just fate. You just got pushed out to, because when you're in the thick of it, you're going to get moving and you're going to make it happen if you really want it, versus if it's a side thing, you're like, well, I'll get to it when I have time. It's not a priority. So the universe just like, okay, Dolly, it's time to make it happen. That email.
It was definitely like a lot of, and I'm not going to lie to everyone, like owning a business full time, like it's scary. Like there are just like days. I don't know if you feel like this, but I certainly, like, there are days where I'm like, what is happening? What is going on? And like that, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified, but I was at the same time, I was excited, because I was the boss, and I could dictate like what my schedule could look like. And it was probably the best thing ever. One of the best things, outside of getting married to my husband, outside of having my boys, and of course having like a relationship with God. This was one of the best moments of my life, just like becoming my own boss. Yeah.
That's so good. So let's talk a little bit about the systems and workflow side of your business. So to just break things down and make it simple for beginners, what are we really talking about when we say systems and workflows?
Yeah. So I like to call it, like, break it down, like, how do you keep the back end of your business organized? And then think of systems and workflows, or like SOPs. I'll start with SOPs, like standard operating procedures. So how do you operate all the different facets of your business? Like, because it's all different. Like, obviously, you don't have the same standard operating procedure for, like, in a personal example, like we all have our own workflow or a system for how we wash our faces. We have like a standard operating procedure, and then we have we're coffee drinkers in our house, so like we have a very specific way of how we make our coffee, and like I have a very specific way of like how I drink my coffee. So we, in our personal lives, we have set up our own systems and workflows, like what works for us. So what systems and workflows can help your own business work for you in your benefit? And like what apps and what tools and what resources can we use to help run the back end of our business? Because it's going to look very different from person to person, from business owner to business owner. I like to help uncomplicate that, because when people hear systems and workflows, they think, oh, tech, automations, oh, AI robots, and I don't understand all that stuff. So I just like, I don't want to deal with it. But the reality is, like, yes, like there are automations and some resources, but like mostly like, how do you run the back end of your business? Okay. How do we organize that? Okay. How do we set a standard operating procedure for each of these things then for you, so that you can run your business with ease and have a little bit more peace? I mean, ironically, I just got off of a podcast interview right before this podcast interview, and I was interviewing another woman who was also at the Creative Educator Conference, and she went through a sudden death in her family, and she was talking about how she had some systems set up that like ran in the background so that she could just deal with the grief and step out of her business. And so it was a really eye-opening episode. Like, it's really important to have some systems and like a structure in place for your business.
Absolutely. I feel like SOPs can be a little overwhelming to people.
Mm-hmm.
Just the thought of having to, because we do things so automatically, right? We're just so used to going through the motions of what we do, not necessarily analyzing if we're being efficient at what we do, but just doing it because that's how we have been doing it. And maybe that's the most comfortable way to do it for us. What are some of the ways that or some tips that you give to your clients on how to capture those SOPs so they can share with a person that's going to help them integrate things and work on the workflows?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Okay. And this is something that I'm still refining in my own business, but I would highly recommend, if there is something that you as a business owner, you're listening in and you're like, you do the same task either daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly, I would say write it out. And if you don't want to write it out, then map it out on your preferred project management tool. And if me saying the words project management tool stresses you out, it's just like simply Trello or Asana or ClickUp or Monday, like one of those project management tools. And if you're like, I don't own that, then open up your Google Drive and then open up a document and map out one task for yourself. And then to take it a step further, I want you to open up Loom. That's spelled Loom. That is a way to screen record yourself, and you can talk through each of the steps. And you may seem like this is like so silly, like it all lives in my head, I'll just remember it always. But here's the thing, some tough love. Like, if you want to grow your business, you really you can't do all the tasks all the time that's living in your head. You have to take this and extract it out of your head and train somebody else, in order to truly, I feel like the word scale is an overly saturated and overly sexy word that's used all the time. Oh, you need to really scale to grow, but it's so true. If you want to grow your business, you're going to have to, you don't have to outsource all the things, but you have to strategically outsource some things that another person can do, so you can concentrate on only what you can do. And if one of those things is I don't know, managing your inbox, if you know somebody can manage your inbox for you, then map out some standard operating procedures for templates, email templates that you're always sending out to inquiries, or you're always sending out to people asking about your program or whatever, and then templatize them. Walk through maybe your own voice. I'm making a very complicated SOP. I realize that as I'm saying this example, but train your VA or whoever is helping you with your own voice so that they know how to answer these emails for you, and you've developed a standard operating procedure for them, and now you can go do something else.
Yeah, I agree. I use Loom a lot for my SOPs. I have a new assistant that I'm training right now, and I even called her and checked on her yesterday. I was like, am I killing you yet? Are you going to run away? Are you good? Are you good? And, we were even talking about how there's so much that we do that we don't even realize day to day, things that are just, like you said, live in your head and you don't necessarily think about it. So breaking down those steps to have somebody help you. But even like you might do it, you might spend all this time training somebody. Maybe you train them in person, you go over everything, and then maybe a few months later or a year later, that person has to leave for whatever reason it is. And now you don't have all these things written down and recorded and organized, and you having to spend your time and train this new person all over again. So very, very important to spend the time to go through, even if you don't have an assistant yet. Maybe in the near future, you know that you're planning on growing your business, and you can have that ready to go for whenever you hire that person. Don't wait until you hire the person to have to write everything down. Is my recommendation as you go through your business right now. And you might even be able to see some inefficiencies and some things that you can be changing as you record and structure these SOPs, because it's going to make you take the time to stop and think about it. So it will help you kind of analyze if you're being efficient, if you're really doing what is best for you and your business, right?
Exactly. And it's like an ebb and flow or a growth process, because you're not going to be able to map out everything in a day. So if you want to, like, this is what I do still. I have a master, like I use Trello for all of my project management tool. Like that is my project management tool of choice. So I have like a master business operations board, and I put everything in that business operations board, from like email marketing to my own marketing to like blogging to YouTube to like everything. And I'm still adding to it, and I'm categorizing it to what makes sense for me. And it's helping me. It helps me stay on task to what I need to prioritize, and then eventually what I need to hand off. And it's been, again, it's nice not letting it all live in my head, because it doesn't need to live in my head.
You need that real estate space for other things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then also, like, when business owners who go, I was just thinking this also, this just came to me, like your mindset literally changes like every new season you're in, like obviously. But an example is like, I went from starting to own my business with no kids, and then I like literally am growing my business. I'm in year 6 and I have kids. So it's like very different. And my mind is crammed to the max because of my kids. Like I'm always thinking about like their schedules, like food, shopping, like all this stuff. And I still need to keep my business organized. And so that's another beautiful thing about just like mapping out your workflows and SOPs like in one hub for your business, just to like keep, I don't know why I thought that, but I just felt like,
Good thought. Yeah. You change as you evolve as a business owner. You also evolving as a person. Priorities will change. You might want to spend less time going through some of these, processes and procedures that maybe you did in the beginning, because now you have a family to tend to, and, maybe you're in the growing phase where you are really putting a lot of efforts into the marketing and developing new services, and you're no longer wanting to spend a lot of time on the email templates and answering your inbox and things like that. So I think that's a great thought of like understanding that you are going to evolve with your business as a person, and then you need to be constantly reassessing those SOPs so you can continue to evolve and have the help that you want if you want, or need if you need. Hey, wedding photographers and event planners, say goodbye to time chaos with Timeline Pro. Our app turns your workflow into a breeze, letting you create and customize stunning wedding day timelines in minutes. Share them with clients and vendors for instant feedback, all within the app. No more endless emails and coordinating headaches. With our easy-to-use templates, shot list tracker, and sunset timings, your planning becomes as joyful as the events you're crafting. Dive into a stress-free planning experience and make every wedding a masterpiece. Download Timeline Pro now and transform the way you plan weddings and events. For more, visit timelineproapp.com.
What I do want to share, if a listener's listening in and they're like, well, when should I assess? Should I be assessing every day? Should I be assessing every week? That's a little over the top. So don't don't punish yourself, listener, like every single day. That's really intense. I try, like with my schedule, having a family, I try to do like 2 main days every year where I do just like I call it like a Dolly retreat to myself, with myself. Like I go to a hotel and I spend like the night. So like for 48 hours, I'm by myself and I assess and I project for the next year or so. And if you can't do that, maybe like hire out a babysitter, or just like be intentional once a quarter. And if you can't like go to a hotel, like carve out intentional space so that you can make like assessments of how the back end of your business is running, because the last thing you want to do is for life to happen and then you like put a hodgepodge of systems together to like get yourself through it. You don't want to do that to yourself. You want to be intentional and you want to, I don't know, lay a better foundation for yourself.
So if somebody doesn't have a lot to invest in their business, they don't have a lot of money and resources, what is the one thing that they should spend their money on when it comes to systems and workflows?
Ooh, that's such a good question. I mean, I know everybody has their own opinion, but I'm coming in with my opinion. And I really think investing in a good CRM tool is really good for your business, regardless if you are a service-based business owner or I'm speaking mostly to the service-based business owners here, especially if you're working one-on-one with clients, or you have a group program, or you lead a mastermind, or you want to lead a mastermind. You're working with another human. And so you should have a place for your contracts to live. You should have a place for your questionnaires to live. You should have a place for your forms to live, like how people can work with you. And if it's like a hodgepodge of Google forms that you threw together and like you don't know where the link is, or you need to have some sort of system like in place. And that's what a client relationship management tool can do for you. It keeps everything under that hub. And then therefore you can then begin working on those individual workflows depending upon what service you offer or what services you offer. And it just keeps things again under one hub, under one home base. And I don't know how much HoneyBook is per month, but like Dubsado is like $38 a month. HoneyBook is very affordable, very approachable as well. There are so many different types of CRM platforms to choose from, but find one that like jibes with your personality and you know it can serve your audience really well.
Can you help us compare a little bit some of the main ones out there that you're familiar with?
Oh, so I'm familiar with the photography based ones like HoneyBook and with Dubsado. And then I've heard of 17 Hats because that's like a really popular one with photographers.
Sprout is another big one too.
Sprout, yeah. And I've heard about Sprout. So I don't know too much about Sprout. So it just really depends on, again, this is my opinion coming in. What is your main income? So like, who do you serve? What is your business? Who do you serve? If you are brand new at this, don't just get a CRM because you heard somebody say, oh, you need this. This will change. Like that's how I am about Dubsado. But I do want to take a step back and say, who do you serve? What do you do? Can you ask people who are in the similar field as you, like maybe like, what do they use? How do they serve their audience that's very similar to yours? Because maybe it's something totally different from HoneyBook or Dubsado or Sprout, because it may have features that can serve your audience really well. So, and there are free trials for most CRMs. So go and test it out, do your research, and don't take like 3 months to decide. Give yourself 1 month to decide. Just give yourself like a timeline and say, okay, this is what I am going to go with, and give yourself permission to change lanes. If you're like later on in 3 months, you're like, this is actually not really vibing with me. Okay, then do something else. But just start. I want to encourage you to start, because if you, a lot of us as business owners want everything to be perfect, but then you're just like paralyzed with decision fatigue. And so you just got to make the decision. So give yourself a timeline to decide, make the decision, and then go forward with it. And then every CRM platform has its ups and downs, so there's no perfect solution.
I definitely took advantage of the free trials. I remember I did some research, came down to like my top two choices, and then made use of that free trial time frame to really try and play with it. And that's what helped me kind of decide where I wanted to land. I use HoneyBook. I still do, have always done it. I have friends that have changed, have used different ones, and I stuck to it. I felt like it had what I needed at the time, and I'm very excited about all the new things that came up, all the new features and everything. We'll make sure that we link on the show notes for you guys too. But what I liked about it specifically was how user friendly it was. I was able to, I am not a manual reader. Instructions are not my thing. I don't ask me to put furniture together because I'm just going to look at the pieces and be like, okay, this looks like it goes together here. I have no patience looking at step-by-step instructions.
Yeah.
So when my husband and I put furniture together for the house, it's very interesting because he like separates and organizes everything, and then he reads to the whole manual, and I'm just sitting there like, can we get started? Like, I'm just going to put these two things together. And so the kind of same thought process went into choosing my CRM. I wanted something that I could intuitively follow and use and not have to go and look at every single instruction and kind of figure it out as I go. And HoneyBook was the one that kind of gave me the most freedom to do that. So again, it will depend on your personality too and how you are organized and in, again, the population that you serve, like Dolly said.
Yeah, that's very true. And also like a lot of my, okay, so I am a Dubsado girly, and I have to share this story, and hopefully it will make somebody feel better about themselves. I purchased it in 2018, so that's when I started my business, because I was like, oh, everybody uses Dubsado. All these people are, okay, I'll use it. You all, I paid for it for 6 months before I even started learning. So don't do what I did. Like, I was like so afraid of like diving into it because it was intimidating to me. But when I finally got over my fear and like my paralysis, I started diving into it, and their customer support. Like for me, I always base my buying decisions on like one of the main factors is, how is their customer support look like? Like, will they make me feel like a dum-dum, or are they like responsive? Do they actually have helpful? And so they had a really good support team, because I ask a lot of dumb questions. I feel like I'm always asking questions, and so they were always kind in response. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with them. And that kind of like also made me decide on my website platform. I use Showit, and I enjoy it a lot because of the customer support. So anyways, maybe that can help somebody out. Like, customer support is huge.
Yeah. So definitely some great factors. So looking at the population that you serve and what kind of services and products you're going to offer, make sure that it has features that are going to accommodate for that. Think about your personality and how you like learning new things, and incorporating that into your business. And then customer service, I agree, is a big one. And I think most of them do a pretty good job with it. But yeah, those are great things to kind of just take a look at and do some comparisons. Obviously, pricing comes into this factor analysis too. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the main changes that you have made on your workflow that resulted in some money wins. So give us a good example of like, here's what I apply and here's what happened and actually generated some income and some wins for me.
Yeah. So this has been a workflow that I have leaned heavily into, especially for my photography side of my business. And I want everybody to do this, because you will notice a huge difference. And so I'll just begin. So I call it the contact form that wows. And so make sure from the very get-go, when somebody reaches out to you on your website or through Instagram or through ever, if there's a clear path to reaching out to you, to contacting you, it's clear as day. And then make sure when they like fill out your form and hit the submit button, that these two things happen. One, they are redirected, like they get that confirmation email from you right away based off of your CRM platform, whatever you use. Like, so they know, oh, okay, I'm in the right place. I reached out to Dolly. I know like she's going to get back to me. Cause like, what if they reach out to you at 2 a.m? Like, are you going to be at your computer at 2 a.m? I hope not. I hope you're allowing yourself to sleep. So like, so you still, this is like the power of the CRM playing with, coinciding with automation, like the system of automation. Like you can still stay top of mind while you're sleeping and you're still serving your potential audience. So make sure that they, in that first step of the workflow, they get that automated email letting them know like more about your services. And you can get, even if you want to get even more nitty gritty, depending upon what they self-selected in your drop down menu, you can set it up in your workflow to have this email sent out if they self-select for motherhood photography versus if they self-select for newborn photography, what email is going to go out. You can get nitty gritty. And then on top of that, make sure in the first email, have a very generic welcome video of yourself talking to this person. Of course, like you're not using their name. You're just saying, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I am so excited to potentially working with you. So this has helped me connect with my potential families, especially moms are reaching out to me and they hear my voice, they see my face, and they can be like, wow, she is a total dork goofball. I do not want to work with her. Or they may be like, oh, I want to work with her. She's quirky. She's funny. She's relatable. And that has really helped out. Like that first email also has that embedded video, which I create in Loom, LOOM, and you can just embed it in that email. And then another thing that happens as soon as they hit submit on my contact form, so they're getting that email, they're also being redirected to a thank you page on my website. And so it confirms even more like they're in the right place. It gets them more excited about working with me because they're seeing more of my work. And I'm inviting them to be on my email list because keep in mind, just because they fill out your contact form, that doesn't mean they're on your email list. That's a totally different platform. So I invite them to download like, hey, let's start planning out your family photography session now. Here's my portrait style guide. And so they get funneled into my nurture sequence for that. So they're being reminded about me in two ways. And so the next step that I do is more personal. So like, let's say they fill out my contact, they're like nursing their baby at 2 a.m. They're like, oh yeah, I have to book a newborn appointment. Oh my goodness. So they fill it out and they instantly get that email confirmation from me and it answers all of their questions that they need to know then with the video. And then they also are getting a URL redirect page and they're like, oh yeah, I need to plan my style session with Dolly. And so they're on my email list. And then the next day when I'm at my office hours, I open up my email. I'm like, oh, somebody just filled out my contact form at 2 a.m. Okay, great. So I send them a personalized video talking to them for not only like 2 minutes. And I don't have to like do my hair and makeup. I'm literally like, sometimes I'm just like, hey, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not in my hair. Like, I'm sorry to do my hair and makeup, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for filling out my form. I'm so excited to help answer any questions about motherhood photography. And then I let them know what their next steps are. This is the part a lot of business owners neglect because they are too worried like, oh, I don't have like a production team. I don't look good. I don't have my hair and makeup ready. I'm ugly. I sound weird. Like y'all, we just need to get over ourselves. Like we have to run a business. Okay. Yeah. And
it's not about you. It's about your clients.
I know it's about serving them. And they want to know that you're a real human. And so I will say, every time I do this step, like if I had to put a percentage to it, 75% of the time I get a booking because the person is like, wow, thank you so much for the video. It was so fun to like hear you talk. And sometimes my sons will like run into the frame. I don't ask them to do this. It's like, they just run into it and they sit on my lap. And I'm like, I am momming right now, but I just want to answer your question really fast. And so they see I'm a mom. So they make that connection and they know I'm a real human. And so those 3 steps at the beginning of my contact form workflow have been a game changer for me.
Yeah, 100%. I do the same thing, and I can attest to how much people enjoy having that personalized answer that really sets you apart. Like if you want to talk about, a saturated market and trying to stand out from competition, that's a great way to do it. Like being personal and sending that individualized message makes a huge, huge difference.
It really does.
Yeah. Any other great tips that you can think of to share with everybody? Any make sure you guys do this, remember this, anything that make a huge difference in your business that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah. If I can stress anything, it's to get your financial house in order from the very beginning of your business. Like I had shared a little bit, like I kind of hinted, I did not grow up in the most financially sound environment. I had a lot of student loans. Like it is because of my husband. Like I have better financial knowledge. I'm still learning, but the best thing I did for myself when I started my business was hire an accountant. And I finally got to a point last year where I could hire a bookkeeper, and I feel more at peace knowing where every single penny of my business is going. It just gives me more clarity. And so I want to encourage the listeners, if you want to actually run a business, well, you got to treat your business like a business and not be like, oh, this is my fun business checking account and I feel like buying this new lens today. And I'm like, well, yes, but is that what a business owner should do? You really need to put your financial hat on and forecast for your business. And one of the best things you can do is just know the numbers. And if you're too afraid of knowing your numbers, then ask for help. Go find an accountant that will work really well with you. Find a bookkeeper that will work really well with you, and set yourself up for success early on.
Your husband would be so proud of you right now.
He would be. He works literally right behind me, so I hope he's hearing this and I hope he's smiling.
We'll make sure we send it right to his inbox when the episode comes out. Look at you caring about all the money now.
I know. And he's he's still working on me because I can still be oh, I really want to buy this. And he's like, well, what does the spreadsheet say?
It's a good balance. It's a good balance.
Cares about the spreadsheet. I want it.
Well, thank you so much, Dolly. Tell us where everyone can find you if they want to work with you and kind of elevate their systems and workflows in their business.
Yeah, definitely. You all can find me on Instagram at Dolly DeLong Education. That's where I educate on systems, workflows, and SOPs to impact the back end of your business. I also have the podcast, the Systems and Workflow Magic Podcast, and I also have a YouTube channel where I educate about systems, workflows, and SOPs. So you can find me there. And then as far as working goes, I do work one-on-one with clients as more high level. So if they are launching, so I work as their integrator, or if they don't want to do the full 3 months launching, then I do one-off packages of tidying up their systems to impact their launch. So so that's just a little bit about me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being a guest today. There was a lot of great stuff that I know our audience can utilize, a lot of great tips. We really enjoy having you, and I hope to see you guys on the next episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Bye for now.
Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nata Salvatori, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.